It's time for us to dive once more onto the breach, my friends. You see, Whatifalthist has released a new video titled "The Rise and Fall of the Blue Pill," and that's a title that's too juicy for me to pass up. I love to hear what Rudyard's criticisms are of the left. Let's go through it point by point. Let's dive in, shall we?
How honest the field of history is that's going on now. This is a discussion I think society should have, but I don't think we frankly have the literacy or the honesty for either our chattering or ruling class to do so now.
I don't think that this is a guy who should be talking about literacy. Whatifalthist has literally said multiple times on like so many different videos that like, oh, scientists just don't research X or Y or Z. Nobody writes books about X, Y, or Z anymore. And it's just not true. There are tons of books in those different fields and categories that he lists. There's tons of research being done all the time. It's truly bizarre, the world he lives in. So I don't think he should get the high ground on literacy.
In that when you're looking at studying the past today, you find that almost all criticisms about how history is written come from a place of ideology, and that they only care about the politically important current events. Our entire culture has been consumed inside the obsession of politics, and practically no one is genuinely looking for the truth now.
I do have to ask, unironically, have we covered this before? Is this video ringing a bell for any of you fans of my Whatifalthist coverage? Because it feels very similar to stuff he says all the time. All the time. I don't think. Did I accidentally choose a segment that we've done before? I need to just look on my channel real quick. I'm just getting such a strong sense of deja vu. Okay, no. Nope. All right. I think this is just, it's the voice. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It feels so uncanny sometimes doing Whatifalthist content. Yeah, we watched one spirit science video. Now I'm astrally projecting across space and time.
When they look upon the past, they only see the reflection of the present. As a general rule, in the ancient world, the issue is lack of sources. However, for the last 1,000 years of Western history, we have so much evidence on literally everything, from each perspective.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Only a certain group of people could read or write. So the perspective and like relation of events is highly limited. Like, I'm sorry, there are entire cultures that we don't have a ton of evidence about, but we know existed. We have to name different groups of people after like pottery.
Primary sources, tax records, notes, archaeology, wine purchasing levels, and the price of grain, and all that.
Yeah, genuinely, maybe a lot of this is related to the fact that he just uses shit tier maps all the time. Yeah, and we have a lot of evidence about material transport because the large bureaucratic trade networks on the scale of like nation state economies do need to be tracked and written down. So we have some evidence of that. That doesn't mean all of the records survive. It just makes some of the anthropological work a little bit easier to do.
Kind of thing, that it's basically impossible to hide something big. Once you get outside that time frame to the ancient or non-Western world, sources can get very murky. Anyone who pretends to know what's really going on in prehistory, for example, is a charlatan.
I mean, I think when we look at what prehistory looked like, there's, again, anthropological evidence for that. You know, you make certain assumptions, you take a look and create new theories on like the social behavior of different groups, and like you based on the evidence that we can find.
However, the real place where people lie is context. Humans have to live our lives as a sort of story with clear direction, which was one of Jordan Peterson's best points in his best book by far, Maps of Meaning.
Oh, God.
That book is so incredibly good, possibly one of the most important of this century. And
Holy shit, dog. Rudyard, I missed your text walls. Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson was such an important book for me, since what he does is look at psychology and neurology, which are some of the academic fields most susceptible to pseudoscience and propaganda. Through looking at scientific research on psychology, he matches it with the traditional religious views of the world, proving that humans need certain archetypes like good, higher, evil, left, or wait, good, evil, higher, lower, or stuff like Mother Nature or Father Culture. You know, I hope you guys understand now the reason I associate Jordan Peterson and like people like Whatifalthist with like this spiritual esotericism, that this Nazi esotericism, because as you can see from the very clear nonsense of the video we watched prior to this, which was a segment on spirit science and how they conceptualize the spiritual moon or whatever, it's the same type of thing that goes into like this latching on to Jordan Peterson, you know, regurgitating Jungian archetypes as a concept, and like all these conservatives are like, yes, that is a foundational truth about the world. That since neurologically our minds need to categorize the world in a functional mental map with a clear direction, this book convinced me of the importance of traditional religion, as well as showing me there are maps of consciousness that determine society and the world. And like, that's not, no. Also, we have a very clear breakdown of Rudyard's religious views, and they could never, ever be categorized as traditional religion.
I think a lot of people who get turned off by
He literally claims to be a prophet.
Peterson's career as a pundit don't see that he's incredibly revolutionary and important in his given field, or the intersectionality of psychology, human nature, religion, and neurology.
He's literally not a great thinker in any of those categories. I like cue the Jubilee clip of somebody saying, "You're really nothing, aren't you?"
Thus, one story hides as much as it reveals by its own nature. You'll find there are stunning
weird the stories that conservatives tend to latch onto as like, yes, this is a true foundational tenet of human nature. Bitches be eating apples. And like, that's suddenly their entire worldview about women.
Historic lies, which occur through the purposeful deceptive use of contextual frames. You're only trained to operate inside your own frame, and thus the public can be legendarily gullible or naive.
Can we just, again, just taking a look here, like, map of religion in 1618 AD. Up here, absolutely nothing. It's just a beige hellscape. Down here, absolutely nothing. Okay, also just everyone believed in the color beige. And then you have Sunni, Dar al-Islam, the Shia, Hinduism, Lamaist, I'm unfamiliar with that particular branch, Buddhism, mix of Confucianism plus folk plus Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, and then we got Orthodox Christendom, Protestants, Catholics.
Frame, and thus the public can be legendarily gullible or naive. You can see where people are irrational or using propaganda in which they are incapable of looking at both sides of the coin. All good things have negative elements and vice versa. When someone's
I don't necessarily think that's true. You know, I don't think anything good must necessitate a bad. Like, I don't know, sometimes someone can just love you. And like, there's not really a downside to that.
Says something is just unilaterally good without consequence, you know they're selling you something. For example, I loathe communism, but as I analyze communism, I try to explain why I think communism was so.
I'm probably missing some things here. There are loads of tiny communist movements I can't keep track of. Inform me of some in the comments. Just a bunch of communist leaning. What even is this map? Like, what genuinely, all Russia is communist by choice? What does that mean? Does he genuinely think that Putin's Russia is communist? Does he generally think India, that's currently being ruled by like an authoritarian dictator type, is communist leaning? India? The capitalist hellscape of India? Okay.
Popular over history, operating out of the self-interest of communists. This is what I consistently found in reading histories of philosophy or world history, where there's a big shift in how they frame the world that occurs around the start of the 20th century or World War I.
I think the map is of the Cold War. I don't know about that. There's literally nothing to indicate that. It's just nonsense, even if you were to think it's about the Cold War.
I've spoken before about how the world wars brought about a cultural shift on the scale of the foundation of a new religion or civilization.
I'm sorry, just real quick. Rough map of modernist culture today. Uh-huh. This doesn't mean anything.
Cultural shift on the scale of the foundation of a new religion or civilization, which I call modern civilization, which I made one of my best videos about explaining. Once you hit the 20th century, you'll see historians who otherwise have the toughest minds in handling the past, passing judgment on the great men of history or entire civilizations.
Again, he only accepts history that uses great man theory, and thus he can only rely on sources written like in the 1800s, which is not great when that's when you're getting all of your historical information from, considering a lot has been discovered since then.
Suddenly suspend all seriousness. Changes after this point are just unilaterally good, with no read on the costs involved, something that's never happened before in history, according to their own book. In histories of philosophy, you see the jump from reading about complex figures like Plato, Nietzsche, or Spinoza to entries on the philosophy of mathematics or very specific hyper-autistic things completely unrelated to daily life, like whatever Heidegger did. You see histories that practically say that all of our human history was completely wrong, and we just gained enlightenment on our new perfection after.
I'm sorry. What I'm trying to pay attention to him, but this visual, this is how the normie views history. Rome, Christian Dark Age, anal sex discovered, John Lennon, Imagine, Richard Dawkins. This is not how normies think about history. Normies don't think about history. Like they don't think about it. And certainly when you ask them what are major milestones in history, what anal sex is discovered, I don't know, in the 1920s. I'm pretty sure the Romans knew a great deal about that. I'm just spitballing here. But anyway,
the world wars. After thousands of years of people fighting tooth and claw for meaning or glory, psych, everyone's equal now, that was all stupid. They should have just adopted agnostic liberalism, and then the Crusades, Renaissance, empires, and religions were all unnecessary. Maybe if Plato read John Rawls, he'd see why meaning was unnecessary, since we should just give the poor more money. Maybe George Washington.
What? We've already gone so far off the rails. We're 4.5 minutes in here. Yeah, what if I don't know, what if John Adams went back in time and sucked Diogenes' dick? Yeah, like we could sit here and imagine hypotheticals all day. Like why does this matter?
Would have been smart if he had an iPhone. The point I'm trying to make here is that there was a historic event which occurred at some point in the early 20th century in which the West completely suspended any concept of seriousness or reality around life. Any genuine
What are you talking about? Yes, there was a specific event that occurred that has titanic amounts of meaning, but you can't pinpoint an actual time or date for the event. It's just, it's like a vibe. A vibe happened. Come on.
Desire for anything or sense of soul was gone.
Yeah, people famously don't want anything in the year 2025. Americans famous for being without need or want.
Rudyard's maps make a lot more sense when you understand Rudyard thinks communist equals bad, people against West equals bad, and non-white people equals bad. And his brain mixes them when he makes his maps.
That's true. That is basically how he cartographers the world. And yes, I use that as a verb.
Riverboat Jack, you have achieved 3% of science. Thanks for all your hard work. BWA.
This does feel, sometimes, you play like a 4X video game, like a Stellaris type game, and you're going through your research tree, and you're like, dang, I'm only 10% of science right now, towards my next scientific goal. That's what it feels like going through a Rudyard video. It's just kind of like, oh damn, we are not even 10% through this Whatifalthist video, and already we're talking about what if Plato read John Rawls for no reason. Like, okay, we're not even 10% of the way through this, and we're already just absolutely gone. We're so far away from our goal. And by the end, we'll have something cool like ion thrusters. I missed the anal sex portion of the Stellaris tech tree. It's in the Synthetic Ascension pack. You have to find synthetic fertility.
It's an event that completely dominates every single
That was a really deep cut, if any of you actually play Stellaris.
Element and moment of our lives today, but which is never discussed seriously. We are living in illusion about what the greatest shift of our age was. Welcome to what I call the blue pill era, the age of platitudes as religion, the age of Nietzsche's last man, the veritable age of plastic. When you look back over history, you see certain historians stuck in the worldview of their ideology. People don't have ideas.
Oh, the sentences he's saying. Oh, God. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Can we run that sentence back?
Historians stuck in the
Sorry. I'm sorry.
age of plastic. When you look back over history, you see certain historians stuck in the worldview of their ideology.
When you look back across history, you find certain historians stuck in the worldview of their ideology. That's just having an ideology. Wow-wee. I genuinely wonder if he has AI write his videos at this point. It's so bad. Guy had a terrible graph with anal sex on it and just complaining about things not being discussed seriously. Yes, but you have to understand, Whatifalthist is a very serious man who discusses serious things seriously.
People don't have ideas, ideas have people, to pull from the Jungian tradition.
God, conservatives, please, for the love of God, understand that Carl Jung is largely discredited in his field. Archetypes are just a fun narrative device.
Sex. Tier 8. Requires 125 science. Prerequisites. Oil refinery, shipmaking, pottery, rite of conquest.
Paladin, thank you for the $5 dono.
Great irony is that the story of the 20th century will be written centuries from now in an almost diametrically opposite narrative than today.
Man, that's crazy how you've somehow time traveled to the future and learned how they're going to narrativize this part of time in multiple centuries, because I guarantee you the way that people in the 1500s thought of themselves is very different compared to how we think about the people who lived in the 1500s, kind of like how that's just how time works. That's just how human society tends to be when you're reading about people who lived a long time ago. Oh my God. Oh boy.
The spirits like to convey the message that you should mentally see me as Gandalf.
God.
We stopped being able to see the world honestly since we became conquered by a new religion, one whose dominant precept was that it was not a religion. The new elite brought about a tyranny greater than the Catholic Church, Rome, or China. The West is now only waking up to its rapid domestication and the death of our soul. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not.
We're finally through the intro. Let's go. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh God. Yeah, you've heard of spirit science. Let's get some spirit history. Let's go.
The blue pill has...
Okay, just real quick. Why is the text aligned left? Like, I'm not mad. I'm just wondering, like, why do you make the decisions you do? Why is the text left aligned instead of centered? Perhaps revealing Rudyard's biases.
The blue pill has removed all traces of masculinity in society, but Black Forest is bringing it back with cocoa.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But what if Diogenes had time traveled to the Enlightenment to read Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Cinq Traités sur la sodomie?
All masculinity in society is dead except for Rudyard's, apparently.
I'm reading a lit RPG right now, and their little skill tree world is closer to reality than however the FK Rudyard thinks society works.
God, you guys, you have to understand, this channel has 720,000 subscribers. This video has got over 300,000 views. He has actual sponsors. Real world companies give him money to sell their products.
Lava Knolls, the Bruce concept back.
This has been done these days.
Gone. Part 1, the pills. It's kind of funny. I think that in the future, the red...
Jesus Christ. I think I'm going to read all of these as Jordan Peterson. For those that don't know, 4chan is a kinda crappy website that had no moderation and was anonymous. Dude, at least throw this through spell check. What the fuck? Thus, what happened is that in the 2000s and 2010s, 4chan became a hotbed of the development of the new rights culture. 4chan was a weird combination of horrifying degeneracy, with stuff like bizarre anime porn being a major cultural unifier with deviant troll behavior, like the whole episode with Shia LaBeouf. However, 4chan was also instrumental in the development of lots of taboo topics like sex, race, or rightism in general. 4chan and the Red Pill are different, but are inextricably linked. Culturally, since the virus, 4chan has gradually been losing its edge, with the new center of rightist innovation going over to Twitter. I love that he's just straight up acknowledging that the wretched hive of scum and villainy that is 4chan was like the major think tank behind the modern conservative movement. You know the website that was famous for like harassing children into killing themselves and rape jokes.
Keys
Cool.
to masculinity. 1. Be blessed to control the spirits of Odin and Lou Ferrigno. 2. Cocoa prison grade whey protein. 3. Citing philosophers nobody gives a shit about. 4. Lots of WHITETEXT.
White text. Thank you for the $5 dono, Paladin.
Pill culture of places like 4chan will end up being written in legitimate cultural or philosophic history books as influential. The reason I say that...
That is not the laugh of a man who's hinged. Just, if any of you ever need like a rule of thumb to kind of like figure out whether or not someone is someone you should associate with, that laugh is a red flag, okay? That was like some Dark Souls NPC that is going to eventually like go mad and try and kill you energy right there.
Charged one where they're ritual...
Oh god, I skipped ahead. We almost missed so much of the video.
The reason I say that is that leftism is clearly failing, and the only thing that can really fill the void is right...
Again, is leftism failing, or did the conservative movement win an election? Because there's a difference between those two things, I think.
Philosophy.
Yes, Anon, you can become a historic figure by schizo posting.
The further irony
What the fuck is happening?
failing, and the only thing that can really fill the void is rightist philosophy.
You should clip just the laugh. Okay, if somebody can get the Joker laugh, we'll add it to the soundboard.
Anon, you can become a historic figure by schizo posting.
I mean, he would know firsthand.
Further irony is that the older rightists or boomer cons demonstrate almost zero interest in the intellectual future of the right, agreeing with the left in general values or direction, just wanting a slower speed. Meanwhile, the next generation of right-wing thought is almost entirely based around internet schizos.
Yeah. And I'm at this point reminded that Rudyard and Whatifalthist is like very much connected to like the Balaji Srinivasan like kind of techno-fascist movement. He's tried to align himself more and more with that.
I'd like to say that 4chan is to the 21st century what black culture was to the 20th.
That left such a bad taste in my neural pathways. Oh god. Yeah, a bunch of white supremacist Nazi teenagers posting at each other that's as influential to okay, mental damage achieved.
In that most of the youth slang and culture today is originally from 4chan.
It's not. I think you're just hopelessly out of touch. 4chan is largely irrelevant now. Like, it was influential insofar as like in the rise of kind of like conservative posting culture around like 2016, kind of the Groypers, the Nick Fuentes, like white supremacist types. That the influence of 4chan is basically gone now that all of the Nazis are just Nazi posting on Twitter.
Examples of words that are from that culture is Sigma, Riz, Beta, Pepe, Grog.
Riz is not from 4chan. Pepe isn't even from 4chan.
Meme Lord, Schizopost, Edgelord, Based, Cringe, Chad, Alpha, Cuck, amongst others.
Again, I think society would basically look the same even without some of those.
Older folks tend to not understand this, but the Red Pill was a seminal moment in the development of Gen Z, my age group especially. At this point, it's been nearly completely normalized among men my age, in that even leftist young men at least now faintly know about the Red Pill, even if they reject it. Funnily enough, the leftist managerial regime trying to suppress Andrew Tate possibly did more to
They're trying to suppress that rapist. How could you?
Legitimize it than he himself did. To backtrack a little, the Red Pill is a concept from The Matrix, a theme which I'll tease out more so over the course of this video, in that the fantasy setting The Matrix is set in is predicated upon the idea that there's this false but pleasant reality that people...
Oh, God. Oh, okay, you know, this is the first time a conservative has hurt me in this way, where it's just so on the face wrong and so littered with illiteracy, and yet delivered with such like certainty in the correctness of the opinion being presented that it just hurts. It hurts my soul as somebody who has a degree in English literature. Like, oh man. Oh, you do not understand the Matrix, and I'm gonna suffer through this, aren't I?
Live in order to feel better about a fundamentally exploitive system. In the movies, humanity is being harvested by an evil AI centuries in the future, which forces us to live in the illusion of the late 20th century so that we can look away as it harvests our energy more easily. Certain people are capable of seeing the edges of the Matrix where they start to form a resistance. The question offered to those who are on the margins of the Matrix blue pill world is, do you take the red pill to learn the unpleasant truth and you could never go back? Or
yeah, the red pill is estrogen. At the time the Matrix was written, most estrogen pills were red.
Do you take the blue pill to continue to live in pleasant ignorance? The reality is that we do live in a sort of matrix today, which is something the authors could probably pick up intuitively, in that much of the purpose of art is to understand complex subconscious truths that can't be articulated in the first logically. Almost everything we believe about reality today is wrong. Just to go
I love this list. He shows it in almost every single one of his videos, and like it's just things all of the rest of history believe that we don't. And again, in order to even write this at the top of a list, you have to have already gotten so many things wrong. Like the idea that like our time is unique in that like all the rest of history agreed on all of these, it's just not true. Like in the slightest.
through a few. Equality is a lie with no evidence for it and lots against it. Genetics determines half of human nature at least. Humans are not naturally good, and we
yes, all of human history believed in genetics. Yeah, okay.
aren't blank slates that can be arranged for any purpose. History isn't over, with liberal social democracy not being the end point of the human condition.
What about there just being a divine, just like throwing out there is a divine and spirit world?
God isn't dead. The disenchantment of the world isn't a real thing besides in our neurology.
Oh, good. It's the map that has slurs on it. I forgot about this one.
Culture exists and really matters. Men and women aren't the same. Biological race is objectively real.
Also, again, this is not culture. Races of the world. Jesus Christ.
Men and women installed by the government since the early 70s. A majority of papers in psychology have never been checked for accuracy. The CIA, Soviets, and Europeans all have
the answer to did the CIA discover the spirit world is no.
Decades of research on the spirit world and psychics. I apologize if I gave some of you a panic attack by saying all of that at once, but you'll probably have to toughen up to survive what's next.
I mean, yeah, you should also probably consider stop being a dipshit if you believe any of this shit. Like, I don't know. Like, if you're like nodding along with this guy, you should probably like sign up for some like I don't know, like free university courses or something.
To be clear, I am
CIA discovered Stargate in Iraq. We're on like that level of conspiratorial thinking.
unclear on how much of the peripheral stuff for that is true, but the nature of science is to throw
Carpet
ideas
Packs,
out
thank you
and
for the
test
raid.
them, not to hide behind convention. I think it's beyond disgusting that we agreed to live in a false reality, and I think it's worse to continue to live the lie than to call it out. This is the great question of the blue pill, which can be used to differentiate its promoters versus detractors. Do they see the person calling out the comfortable illusions as a villain?
The evil laugh sound effect is in the Discord. I have to spend time getting getting the sound clips lined up, but that is excellent news, Gamer G. Thank you so much for the quick turnaround. Appreciate you. What a freak. What a little weirdo.
Or a hero. One man's freedom fighter is another's terrorist. Is the blue-pilled man an upstanding member of society, or a thoughtless sheep participating in a death cult? The reason that the red pill was such a huge moment for younger guys is that everything that underlies the blue pill is a form of luxury belief or mate suppression, a theme which I'll talk about.
Mate suppression. I want to hear about how Whatifalthist believes in mate suppression. You know, like it is genuinely crazy that some young men will like be rejected by like a woman, and then they're just gonna like form an entire personality around being upset about it.
Out at greater length in a future video. The thing is that these luxury beliefs were not that costly in the time of the baby boomers, given the society itself was so wealthy with such high social trust. However, as the average person slid into misery or poverty,
by nearly any conceivable metric, you would pick the average American. By nearly any conceivable metric, you would pick the average American is markedly worse off than their grandparents in the post-World War II period. Gen Z has 90% less purchasing power than the baby boomers had in their 20s. Income has stagnated while cost of living has skyrocketed. The average American has less children, gets married less, has less sex, weighs 40 pounds more, gets several hours less sleep, works significantly more hours a week, and has vastly worse mental health. Inequality has surged to the highest levels in American history while social mobility is at its lowest point. Things are not okay in America today. The average American lives in poverty with less than $500 total, with often no friends. But capitalism couldn't possibly be behind any of that, right? The reason that all of that is true is not because of wokeness, it's because of capitalism. Capitalism, the material reality, the funds that go towards different projects, where that all goes, it's a pyramid scheme. It funnels money to the top. That's why these industries have turn into monopolies over time. They try and acquire their competition and they funnel money to the top. And over time, fewer and fewer hands hold more and more money. And that's how the system works. That's why we have our Jeff Bezoses and our Elon Musks. It's because of that concentration of wealth. And that wealth comes at the expense of the ability to live. It comes at the expense of the working class, predominantly, people just entering the workforce. That's what causes this. People are lonely because they don't have time, because they have to be involved in hustle culture in order to make ends meet. They can't have time for a family, have time to socialize. They don't have money. And that is a direct result of the consolidation of corporate power in America, which is something that capitalism does inevitably.
Statistically obvious trend I explained in this text wall, which is true in 20 different ways, the cost of these lies grew greater and greater. In fact, past a certain threshold, I believe the elites maintain these lies as a way of keeping the population artificially weak and easy to control. The lies grew more costly and obnoxious as life got worse in order to disorient the public. As I will explain later in this video, this is even more true than I even state here. When you get younger than the baby boomers, the ruling class of the blue pill world, you see a growing degree of cynicism against the society and its structure itself. Gen X make up half of the business owners in America and are seen as an independent generation. The millennials are nihilistic, cynical, and doubting of everything. Gen Z is basically frothing at the mouth in every single limited cultural output they have. Our ruling class actively campaigns off the destruction of their own society that they're in charge of. It's clear.
Yeah, it's cannibalized for profit. When we talk about privatization, that is the ruling class selling off things that have traditionally been in the public interest, the public good, in order to further wring money out of working folks.
That the lies of our social code are tearing us apart, causing vastly more damage than any benefit they give. We've strangled ourselves on our own platitudes. Gen Z men bear the greatest cost out of any demographic from the lies of our age. I'm frankly shocked any Gen Z men feel the will to even pretend to care about what the system thinks. The thing is, they just haven't had the power or opportunity to buck the system yet, but the second that they get any authority, they'll do so. The irony is that Gen Z is hurt since the left is trying to target the established white elites, but since they're already established, they just end up hurting the young men trying to get going in life. If you're looking at this from a mate suppression perspective, young men are the most evolutionarily fit demographic, and
what are you talking about?
So targeting them keeps established interests in power.
What
Almost every single
about?
element of life is affected by the lies of the blue pill. Thus, it goes very much to reason that this demographic has every reason to defect.
How do hundreds of thousands of people pay attention to this? This is nonsense. This is just as nonsense as the spirit science videos we've watched and covered and talked about at length. When we talk about how Whatifalthist is Nazi esotericism, this is what it looks like to apply that type of belief system to the world in a more material sense. It's just incoherent gibberish. Ultimately, by the way, that's why any society built on this type of ideological framework inevitably collapses. You know, fascism is not generally self-sustaining because it is, you know, built upon just a mountain of contradictions
against the ruling ideology. Meanwhile, the older folks have more personal, emotional, and financial ties to the blue pill order. What happened here is that as Gen Z men and younger folks in general tried to get—
I'm Comrade Girl 2018. Let me allay your curiosity. He absolutely believes that Jewish people control the world. He is anti-Semitic as hell.
Going in a progressively more difficult world, one in which quality of life has collapsed, cost of living has skyrocketing, dating options diminished, screen addiction, mental health careening to hell, and an environment becoming progressively more inhospitable to human life. Gen Z and the young in general are forced to face enormous differences between the public narrative with their lived experience. I think it will turn out in the future that the current control on information that the mainstream media elite has today in the Western world—
Yeah, bear in mind the most watched news network in America is Fox News, just as an FYI.
Will be equivalent to the Soviet Union before it fell. My friend Balaji likes to say that Marxism is to economics what wokeness is to biology. The thing—
That doesn't make any sense. Stop it. Say something coherent, please, for the love of God.
Is that our entire belief structure of wokeness is obviously wrong, which we know on a biological basis.
No, you don't. You have to make that argument. You're just saying random words that, like, honestly, it's like a conservative Mad Libs. Like it doesn't mean anything.
Wokeness violates our core biology.
Like, yeah, he's being very, like, it's like, oh, yes, you know, you can kind of read it in whatever kind of bigotry you want. Like, if you're a conservative and you're nodding along with this, you're like, ah, yes, he's talking about trans people, or, oh, yes, he's talking about the gays. Yes, he's talking about, you know, like, insert X, Y, or Z. But, like, I also don't think he knows what he's talking about. And I think if he was asked in the moment to explain what he means, his explanation would be even more incoherent.
On a very profound level. The thing we're most biologically wired towards on a basic human level, so much so that their removal destroys us, are sex and its innate duality, competition, hierarchy.
Sex isn't innately dualistic. Like, again, it's so painful because he just keeps stringing words together, but it means nothing.
Struggle, tribe, child rearing, religion, land, and everything else wokeness tries to remove or change.
Yeah, wokeness tried to take my land. I can still remember the night the woke came to my house and took the land from me. Instead, I had to sleep on a void that night. It was horrible. Just horrible. They came with their blue hair and their lesbianism.
Wokeness is a shit test by the depersonalized bureaucratic system as a form of loyalty test. If you believe things that you blatantly know are wrong in your blood on a biological level, like that men and—
Oh, yeah, by the way, when he says something very weird and out of pocket, like something you know is wrong in your blood on a biological level, just so you know, guys, oh man, I look so cozy and comfy and tired as fuck. My makeup is bad. Oof. It's fine. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. If I do look tired, I should be forgiven on those grounds. That being said, this is a man who believes in divine bloodlines that, like, because his, like, some of the people in his family are cops. He has, like, a divine bloodline dedicated to justice. He's talked about this at length in other videos he's put out there. So when he talks about knowing something in your blood, he does mean that in a literal sense. Like, he does mean that, like, you can know things based on what is in your blood. And yeah, it's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. And that nonsense is mixed with eugenics.
Women are the same, or that good and evil doesn't exist, we will promote you inside the system. Bureaucracies work by mob psychology due to the absence of responsibility or leadership.
That's actually not how bureaucracy functions at all. And in fact, part of what makes bureaucracy function is, in fact, individualized responsibility within the hierarchy. And that does require leadership at various levels.
And thus, as always, mobs enact very low-trust exploitive strategies. Thus, the system is demanding complete loyalty as a sort of power game against the population. For women, the main demographic the regime serves, it has become their husband, and they forsake their own children for.
The state has become the de facto husband to many women today since... yeah, ladies, who can relate to coming home after a long day of work and the state just wants to plow you, just wants to really go to town. It pours you some nice red wine. You watch some you watch some Housewives of LA County together, and you talk about what Deborah did and how she's such a mean-spirited person, but her fashion is to die for. And then you sip that wine, and suddenly you're looking across the couch at the state, and you're like, "Hey, baby, I want you to take the state of my union." And then you go into the bedroom and you make sweet, sweet love. And then you have a half human, half state baby 9 months later. Who can relate, ladies?
It. The Blue Pill Order is fundamentally a boomer regime, in that the Blue Pill came in roughly around a little bit after World War II. And
what are you talking about? What do you mean?
Now it's falling apart as the boomers age out. And the reason that the boomer
studies plus ancient wisdom, Saw shows the convergence between 21st century science. Yeah, by the way, in case you're wondering what this is like his field that he made up. It's just called studies plus ancient wisdom. That's the field he claims to be an expert in. Just in case you wanted this to get more full of dipshittery.
Can't break with the regime is they know all of this subconsciously, since from Saw, or a term I invented for studies in ancient wisdom, humans innately understand hierarchy and power relations on a deep biological basis. The boomer derives enough benefit from the system, and the system has broken all of their other psychological stabilizers, whether religion, masculinity, community, family, ethnicity, amongst others. Thus, they have become completely dependent on the system. This is why the normie doesn't rebel, even though it's so obvious this is an evil and twisted system, since the system has removed every other psychological stabilizer and destroyed every attempt at independence already. The normie, by rejecting the system...
His words are becoming gibberish to me. I mean, ultimately, I think we are maybe at the peak of this just be... I think this is just what it's going to be. I would love if we could skip ahead. I do think there's going to be like some dating advice coming up. It looks like in the preview. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on Zoran Mamdani in here. Jesus Christ. I don't know that we can... We're not even at part 2, the rise of the blue pill yet. Jesus. God, more shit tier maps. Oh, look, there's Bernie Sanders in there. Yeah. World Economic Forum. Okay, cool. Holy shit. I don't know that I can make it through this, guys. I don't know that I can make it through it.
Rejects their god. As Balaji...
Well, I'm going to stick around and hope that the dating advice section is funny, and if it's not, we're going to be done with this, because Whatifalthist, genuine bit of advice. If you are right, I assume you're scripting these out, okay? Edit them down so that you can actually communicate your points without actually doing what you're doing, which is just verbal diarrhea. It sounds like what you're doing is taking voice notes and just like stream of consciousnessing the voice notes down, and then you go through that and you find like different paragraphs where you're like, well, I don't want to say that out loud. We're just going to throw it up as text on screen. But that's like the entirety of the video. And like, I don't think that's actually the same as coming up with a coherent argument. You know, there's a part of me that would love to engage with like a coherent argument from this incoherent individual, but you know, what can you do?
The only divine bloodlines anyone should believe in.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Is it? Oh, fuck yeah. God, that's such a vibe. That's such a good vibe. I would if only the rest of the video is just us listening to Blood Relations of Heaven and Earth from Rondo of Blood. Also, Konami's Castlevania art always goes so goddamn hard. It's so good.
Likes to say the 19th century was a society in which God mediated the social structure. In the 20th century, where the state did.
A network-based religion will probably be a return to the religious views that most of the pre-industrial world had, that God is in a relationship with the world in which consciousness itself is the anima mundi, or the mind of God. And like, that's just not accurate. The pre-industrial world didn't have a unified religious belief, let alone in like consciousness and anima mundi, like that. No. Also, assuming that a religion empowered by the internet and technology will be a return to some tradition, that's just absolute nonsense. Stop it. Make a coherent argument or statement for one sentence. Effectively, that creation is a sort of... Effectively, that creation is a sort of reflection of the mind of God, in the same way the 19th century viewed God as social rules, since those were the foundations of their society, and the 20th century imagined the state as their God through socialist progressivism. The 21st century will probably conceive God or religion like an interconnected... web which produces mind organically from it, or how an internet-based society would perceive religion. Like, again, this is just nonsense. This is disconnected from anything about anything. Even if you tried to assemble this into a coherent thought and like in the most charitable way you can possibly interpret this is bullshit. The foundations of this are rotten. It doesn't hold up. Yeah, like literally every single premise he puts forward is too flawed to like even wobble on its legs.
Where effectively we worshipped the state as a god, and the 21st century will be one in which the network is the dominant social organizing principle, and that's probably going to be reflected in our concept of God and religion. What we're seeing now is the painful and complex shift from a state-based social structure to a network one. Meanwhile,
this is just regurgitated fascist bullshit from Balaji Srinivasan and like Curtis Yarvin. Those two men are just very clearly where Rudyard is taking this new inspiration from.
While for the mostly younger guys, the system offers us literally no reason for cooperation. The system openly spits on us.
Yeah, you have no reason to cooperate with others. It's not like by cooperating with others and organizing, one can form an effective resistance that in turn allows one to negotiate for better wages, conditions, or even better social and society-wide conditions. Organize and fight. Let's go.
Refusing to offer us literally anything, or even the basics like work, mate, and meaning that all societies look for. Thus, what's happened is that this demographic looks for any other answer to the realization that their entire...
Yeah, by cooperating with others, you could perchance make a friend or multiple friends, a group or co-op of friends that get together and do activities maybe even make things or art or, practice skills that you enjoy together and, make something collectively. It's, maybe the future is in fact in collective action and not wallowing in misery.
Worldview is a lie, and their society is actively built off hurting them. Only a few are strong enough for these truths, but the rest will gradually have to learn them as people realize how desperate the situation is. The lies of the regime are most obnoxious and obvious in dating. The regime
The leftist woke regime in the dating world. All right, lay it on me. I am ready. I want to know more about the totalitarianness of that lady not wanting to sleep with me. Let's go. Being rejected to go on dates, that's authoritarianism. That's the real authoritarianism. Let's go.
would firstly have us believe that there are no deep divisions at all between men and
Definitely not a huge self-report.
women, unless women are better at them, which is so obviously a lie, it's insane we ever accepted it. Secondly, that women sexually reward docility and kindness, which women openly.
Guys, one of the sexiest possible things to do is show kindness and consideration, especially to someone that you want to have a relationship with. Like, if somebody is genuinely into you, being kind is good. It's what is going to make them interested in you and also, like, want to have sex with you. Like, generally people don't see, like, assholes and they're like, oh yeah, I love the way you disrespected that waitress. Let's go have sex. Like, that's not how women are wired. I'm sorry. Like, oh man, I really liked how you kicked that homeless person. Let's smooch about it. Like, come on. In the real world, being kind, especially in a world where kindness is rare, like, that actually is very attractive.
Say they don't all the time. It's obviously true.
Yeah, also kindness is active. It's not at all the same as being docile.
Women are not as disposed as men to leadership or high intensity positions, or that women aren't purely kind or compassionate creatures, since they constantly engage in high school socially damaging relational warfare.
Yeah, because men never gossip, shame, or this is the result of, like, Michael Knowles. When Michael Knowles is like, men and women are fundamentally different creatures, this is kind of the end result in, like, the fascist mindset of just like, yes, men and women are inherently different, and therefore let's talk about how women suck and need to be subjugated.
Literally talking to women will dispel most of the myths of our society, and if you listen to female music.
Oh, female music. Rudyard, can you identify the genitalia of the music? All female Gen Z music goes, I'm depressed, I hate myself, I'm depressed, I hate myself, I have terrible taste in men, I can't control my own actions, I make emotional decisions that ruin my life. I'm only attracted to sociopaths. This is the music all women want.
I've been genuinely kind and mega outgoing. Haven't had a date since 2009. Maybe one day.
Sake Tanuki, I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs, but also, like, just going and hanging out with people, the worst thing that happens is you make a new friend. Like, that's also, like, friends are also great. I believe in nothing. I'm addicted to drama. This is a female Gen Z song. Jesus Christ. Oh, fuck. It's funny when women will constantly talk about the evils of patriarchy, and then if you hear them talk about their daily lives, it will become clear why the patriarchy existed. Most Gen Z female music is a cry for help that's never heeded. Has Rudyard never listened to, like, Gen Z male music? Because, I don't know, the more masculine tunes also have like a very similar set of messages. And one could argue that like whenever you listen to a lot of men talk, it's clear that they need the guidance of a strong matriarchal figure. You notice how like again, you can just like invert everything he's saying and it would be like you could just say that about women. Like you could just say that women actually deserve to rule men using the exact same argument formulation because there's no actual argument here. It's again just saying shit.
They'll openly talk about all their faults. The thing as well, and I can't overemphasize the importance of this on youth culture, is that women are attracted to power and aggression for its own sake. The reason she likes bad boys is that women are attracted to disturbances more so than goodness. They would rather feel pain than boredom, which is obvious if you hear women's sexual or literary fantasies. When you look at Gen Alpha slang,
Wait, but there's a difference between a fantasy and a real flesh and blood human being. You know, there are two. These are two very different things. These are two very different things. Like I just the comparison that like yes, read what their fantasies are, and they talk about they talk about how they want bad boys who are really mean to them and treat them like shit. It's just like no, actually. No, actually.
It's all stuff related to how sex exists at a cross-section of power and dominance.
I love that as evidence he's showing a goddamn 4chan meme. Holy fuck.
Not morality. That includes slang terms like alpha, chad, beta, cuck, sigma.
Yeah, you already listed those earlier. Why are you doing it again? What's wrong with you?
I find you strangely attractive. Of course you do. Jewish princesses are often attracted to money and power, and I have both. And you know it. Oh, leave me alone. No, kiss me. No, yes, no, yes.
that is basically what's happening here.
Rizzler, amongst others. The obvious endpoint, if this keeps going, and it will, is going to be an amoral society with no clear moral standards and constant violence. This is part of the reason why I think the world is...
Yeah. If women are allowed to have agency, it will lead to chaos and moral degeneracy. Okay. All right.
On the verge of a major wars and social collapses is that the men hate the system and realize that if they tear the system down, women will find them attractive. I can't believe so few others are capable of seeing...
Well, wait, I don't think that it's that they hate the system and they think, yes, if I tear down the system, women will like me. I think it's just they hate the system, so they want to tear down the system. I don't think how women will think about their biceps really like plays into that.
The further endpoint beyond this is that you can't put sex as the dominant organizing principle of your society, since it will always end in this, which is
what are you talking about? Like sex is the dominant organizing principle? You're the one who's arguing for patriarchy. That's you.
Why major world religions created social protections around sex or had engaged marriages picked by the parents. This is a whole different topic that would take an entire other video.
Oh boy. Okay. Our society is simultaneously squeamish, obsessed, and terrified of sex in the most immature way possible, since we're constantly using sex as a motivational tool.
Putting money down. He is going to talk about the rat dystopia at Min Laboratories.
He fucking loves talking about rat utopia. He loves talking about it. He talks about it like every video. I guarantee you give him like 10 more minutes, it's going to come up. Without being honest about it, the society is driven off sexualization in the art or culture, with the assumption being that sex is the reward for a successful life. However, the society is completely incapable. I mean, I guess this is all true if you have no riz, if you're incapable of actually having charisma. However, the society is completely incapable of talking about the realities of sex in a mature way, like what both sexes want or need out of it independently. At the same time, we have a profound squeamishness about sex that most historic societies don't. Keep in mind, nudity in art was normal for most Western history, and they didn't have privacy.
to explain, but our society is strangely squeamish, terrified, and obsessed with sex.
Sorry, did I say profound? I meant profound. Profound.
In the least productive way possible at the same time. Obviously, the entry point for the red pill, or the realization that the entire society is a lie, for most young men is dating. I can personally relate to this, since this was
I bet you can.
a journey I went through myself.
Uh-huh.
When I was growing up, I was told if I wanted to be successful with women, I should just be nice. Keep in mind as well that I was born in 2001, so when I was
okay, wait a minute. Just as an FYI, it depends on what your definition of success is. If you mean, if by success you mean you can sleep with a woman, then you just need to be direct and bold and like ask them out. Ask them if they would like to go home with you. And you know, you have to like actually know how to do that charismatically. And that just takes practice. But if you're talking about having an actual relationship, building something together with someone, then yes, you have to be kind. You have to be nice. You have to be considerate. That's like that's necessary for like having a long-term relationship with someone. You have to actually like the person that you're interested in. It's not deep.
teenager growing up, the whole Me Too stuff of guys shouldn't ask out girls or glance at them.
That's not what Me Too was about. Me Too was about airing the dirty laundry of Hollywood. You know, talking about sexual assault. You can, I don't know, if you're saying you can't ask anyone out because how you would normally ask them out is sexual assault, that says a lot more about you.
That was the social mainstream. So for people my age, that was our normal, where we had to go back in time to realize how insane that is. And that advice that they gave, just being kind and nice, that just failed, and it's completely terrible advice.
I think that maybe that failed for you, but I don't think that's a failure of kindness in your case. I've listened to the things you say and how you talk about human beings, and I've seen your racist maps. So I think maybe you got some other problems going on, and that maybe being kind and nice isn't going to cut it if you have those other issues. He's only 24 years old, so maybe it's just he hasn't met the right person yet. Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Like, I waited a long time to find someone that I love with all my heart, and I am with that person because we're kind to each other and we love each other, you know?
But there wasn't really good advice I could find online as a teenager either. The initial red pill culture was really stupid, with stuff like peacocking or dressing in strange fashion on purpose or negging.
Wait, dressing in strange fashion on purpose is always part of getting attention and catching people's eyes if you are going out intending to try and hook up, because looking distinct in a crowd makes you more desirable.
He has definitely met many right persons. He needs to meet left persons.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. The issue with most of the early red pill is that it, like business or stock market shortcuts, it worked on cheap tricks which are not replicable across context. What that means is that something like negging or being mean on purpose or peacocking or dressing ridiculously to stand out might work for certain individuals in certain contexts. But stripped from that, it's like saying everyone should drop ship vitamins or go into enterprise sales. The reality is that much like the rest of your life, your dating is highly context dependent. Almost like we live in a society, and your social context is going to be very different depending on where you are, you know, how you look, how you present yourself, how you behave. Like, yeah, it's going to be real context dependent, like everything in society is. Your own strength as an individual, context, and personality determine how you date. Also, women aren't stupid and realize cheap tricks like this pretty fast.
Mean to women on purpose, both of which work instrumentally in different contexts, but are terrible underlying principles to operate on.
Yeah, also, I don't know, maybe I'm a little autistic for this, but like, I don't think you should be mean on purpose to anyone ever, unless you are intending to antagonize or belittle them intentionally. Like, I don't know, if it's not your intention, if you like, don't be mean to somebody. What is he talking about? He's just yapping. Genuinely, I'm getting so tired, and I want this to be done so badly.
I didn't actually believe that fully, since it didn't actually seem like these guys genuinely understood female psychology. However,
The ultimate female understander has logged on, of course.
every field starts out kind of stupid and amateur, and much like other breakthroughs, the red pill morphed into an entire culture.
Oh my god, is he trying to say like pickup artistry is a breakthrough? Oh my god. Oh my
The
god.
thing that really helped me was dropping out of college, where I moved to Mexico for 6 months with a bunch of frat bros.
Where he did a lot of ayahuasca. Yes, we're familiar with that, and then you believed that you were an emissary sent from the spirit world. Yeah, just
The spirits like to convey the message that you should mentally see me as Gandalf. The first few years of my adult life were mostly spent with fuckboys, so I have a pretty good idea of who they are and what their people's culture is.
Man, I went to the club like over 50 times in those few years. It was completely not worthwhile, but I'm glad I did it as a way to figure out what I didn't want to do. This is what being young is about. Andrew Tate is symbolic for this, in which he was catapulted to universal popularity and fame, I think in summer of 2022. He's symbolic of a certain cultural phase, which a lot of young men, myself, were included in, that being self-improvement. This is when the red pill went from its organic development online into the young male mainstream.
except, what's really interesting about the red pill is that it's not at all about self-improvement. Because ultimately what it is blaming women for being bitches and too woke. It actually abdicates the responsibility to improve oneself. Like, it's just seeking out excuses for why you're already perfect, sweaty. You don't need to do more. You don't need to improve yourself, because really the problem isn't you. The problem is what all of those dumb bitches are doing. And like, that is why so many men fall for red pill content, because it offers that easy answer. It offers that easy, like, self-soothing ideology. And it is not dedicated at all to self-improvement outside of a thin veneer of like going to the gym. But many of the people who adhere to red pill content don't go to the gym to self-improve. They go to the gym because they hate themselves. And like, they ultimately want to cultivate a body that impresses their social circle of men who also hate themselves. And it doesn't address the underlying issue of that self-hatred. Jackie, yes.
I went through an Andrew Tate phase for about a year, and then I grew out of it. Partly it's that more stuff came out about his backstory that seemed genuinely suspicious.
Like what?
And also another part is that my fuckboy friends were normally
You're what now?
completely. And also another part is that my fuckboy friends were
Okay, yeah. Your fuck boyfriends.
normally completely dissatisfied with their lives, while the entire goal of that culture is to get laid and rich as much as possible. On top of this, I went through a calculation I think a lot of young men in the self-improvement space went through of, is this actually what I want to do with my free time? Where when I was part of that
I like, just as an FYI, self-improvement doesn't mean you have to go to the club. Just as an just for your information.
space, there were lots of people doing things because they thought it would be fun, and I saw
I need to know what a fuckboy is. It's a boy who wants to fuck and behaves in such a way where it's like they try and like get in the pants of any woman they're interested in. That's a fuckboy.
Very few people actually enjoy themselves. And I think hedonism's overrated unless it's with people you genuinely care about. And I don't understand when people go to the club with complete strangers and then get blackout in an environment that means nothing. Don't do things you think other people want to do. Do things you want to do, because
Yeah, but some people want to go to the club and like get their ass touched and like dance with a boy. Like that's something people want to do.
when you add everything up, you'll realize you'll get practically nothing from following the group consensus. They don't care about you. Their group doesn't offer you any benefits.
I love that his idea here is that he didn't like the club and therefore everyone else must be faking liking the club.
So do the path you want to do. The self-improvement phase was the best thing young guys could do, but by its own nature, these young men self-improved out of self-improvement. That, or they just gave up and fell into nihilism. Most went into the...
I still have this unsettling feeling that all this bullshit is just made up. He is making up all of this bullshit. All of this is just like nonsense. I cannot stress enough. This is all made up bullshit. This is like the conspiracy singularity that's all conservatism like gets sucked into. This is what conspiratorial thinking brings you to. The point of essentially reaching rock bottom Nazi esotericism, where nothing is real, and that's kind of the point. Because if nothing's real, you can be convinced to do anything.
Latter direction, well, fewer chose to go into deeper things like religion, politics, family, or glory. Frankly, I'm just too white for most of the red pill culture today.
I want to be done so bad, but I also need to know where he's going with this. I want to be done so badly, but then he throws something like that out there.
You look like a bitch.
And I have no interest in hanging out at Miami clubs. I'd rather try to emulate the great men of Western history instead to attain glory, wisdom, and power. One of the things I consistently...
Okay, so you're gonna die of syphilis in like 2 years? I guess? Like what the fuck?
find with the red pill is a complete inability to look at the external context of the world, where red pill culture has this attitude,
if you're not rich and you don't constantly get...
Why? That audio shift was so weird. Why?
...laid, and you're not a complete Chad, it's your fault because you're weak.
There's this implicit assumption that if you try hard enough, you can attain whatever you want. And that's not how reality works. Reality feeds you plot lines, many of them are brutal, and you do the best you can in a difficult context. And I wish we'd have more empathy for how much people struggle today, because...
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Except that literally all of your content is dedicated to like hating people different from you.
Around us are the lives of millions of Americans living quiet lives of desperation, and we don't care at all. We just kick the poor and downtrodden and tell them to work harder. And I just don't like this culture where the red pill is innately judgmental, and it does so, and the red pill has some positives, but it's got negatives as well, where it judges people.
You could have edited that out. This is a scripted video. Why'd you leave that in?
For unrealistic understandings of success, there's very little legitimate self-awareness and what happens when these guys fail, because they're in a fundamentally incredibly difficult era of history. And
oh man, I can't take you talking about other people lacking awareness. God.
Which almost everyone in their demographic will fail. They can't admit powerlessness, and so they're stuck in these cycles of self-loathing, and people are too immature to realize this is an ecosystem level issue, so they just constantly blame others for not reaching impossible standards of success. In general, young men today are divided between those who put their energies into politics to change the situation, those who try to self-improve their way out of it, and those who fall to nihilism.
And also the hundreds of thousands or millions of people that don't fall into any one of these three categories, because these are far from the only three things men these days can do. Like, God damn it. I feel stupider by the minute. I'm calling the shot now. We're gonna go for another 2 minutes in this video. If If it hooks us back in, we'll keep going. But like, damn, this is stupid.
And what each of these all do is they don't accept powerlessness. This is an innately difficult situation where if they fail, it's not their fault. They all try to avoid the harsh reality. This is not a good situation. I find both camps of the nihilists and the red pill bros distasteful. Firstly, no mature person turns their entire life into sex. Past your 20s, it's just cringe and low class. The guys who are enormous players tend to actually get bored of sex and do other stuff in their life.
I'm sorry, is this a picture of Benjamin Franklin? Are you throwing a picture of Benjamin Franklin on screen? One of the most prolific sex havers? Like one of the biggest players in history? Dude was having sex with prostitutes like every day.
Also, assessing all masculinity by looking good or money and getting sex is incorrect, since I refuse to define masculinity in terms of what women want. When you let women define masculinity, they do so in their own interests, not yours. Masculinity is the ability to crush your enemies and take what you want.
Why won't the women like me when I tell them that that's what my masculinity is? I don't understand. When I look them in the eye and I tell them that my version of being a man is crushing my enemies and taking whatever I want, they seem to look at me like I'm a walking red flag. Why is that? I don't understand. I better read more Jordan Peterson in order to make sense of it all.
Secondly, nihilism is just boring and lame. I get you people hate life, but can't you not bother me about it? I'm still trying to survive and win here. The nihilists try to tear the whole world down out of envy and resentment. This is why I try to avoid the internet these days, since good books and company are—
God, I fucking wish that were true, Rudyard. I fucking wish that were true.
a far better sampling of the human race. So much red pill culture is just completely stupid and artificial stuff. Whereas a content creator, I look at creators like Vitalik, and I can see that this is completely artificial and designed. Same thing as Hamza, same thing as a lot of the bigger channels, although there is a lot of really smart red pill, where there's a group of red pill people who are just stunningly intelligent. And
is there? I would love for you to name some names so that I can check out some of their high-level ideas.
Look at stuff like statistical patterns or evolutionary psychology. My friend Homath has a great channel, but
I'm sorry. Your intellectual heavyweight in this category is a user named Homath. I'm at a loss. Is Homath one of his fuck boyfriends? Oh my god. This looks like cancer. I'm so tired. Okay, just taking a look at this channel real quick. This looks awful. Did you notice bird hands? Sword pilled? I'm losing faith in humanity as I read these titles and look at the thumbnails. This basically just looks like let's react to random TikToks and call women stupid. That's the vibe I get from this channel. I'll check it out off stream sometime.
So much of red pill culture is just shaming other men for not being shallow. And it all boils down to a handful of different metrics, whether being jacked, making money, having a lot of hot girls on Instagram, caring about Instagram. And that just simplifies the world to a very stupid level. How,
I think we can just end on that. Yes, simplifying the world to a very stupid level is indeed what is happening here, just not in the way that Rudyard might expect. I physically cannot do more of this, or I will start vomiting blood. Oh god. So that's how Whatifalthist is doing these days. In case any of you were wondering. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I was supposed to say that at the beginning of the segment, and I hope you enjoyed it, because I didn't. And I'm frankly just glad that I'm pulling the ripcord for us to escape without spending another 2 hours, 3 hours trying to get through this. Yes, these are the right's Renaissance men. Truly their greatest thinkers. who will shape the discourse of our time alongside other luminaries like Cat Turd. Oh my god. Thanks for this. I enjoyed myself. My pleasure. Always happy to provide some laughs, but like, god damn. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget how like utterly awful and devoid of merit Whatifalthist content is, and then we experience it together. But hey, be on the lookout in your life because you never know when you might meet your next fuck boyfriend. And I think that you should know a good thing when you see it. All right. If you look around, you see a fuck boy biting his lip while looking at you. Guess what? You might have just met your new fuck boyfriend. I'm so exhausted.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat.